Hi, welcome everybody. My name's Mercedes Byrne-Klug, and I'm with the University of Iowa School of Social Work. And now we're going to talk about senior centers. And in particular, we're going to talk about the Iowa City Johnson County Senior Center. And I have the director of that senior center here with me today, LaTasha DeLoach. Hi, LaTasha.
Hello, how are you?
Doing pretty well, all things considered. How about you?
I am doing fine, hanging in there and keeping the senior center going is a huge priority. So that's where I am at home, but we're making it work. So I'm just glad to be here today.
Tell me a little bit about the mission of the senior center.
So the senior center, our overall, it's easier for me to talk about our vision and then I
Okay.
connect in it. So we just have it's a simple but complicated vision, right? So our vision is to to continue having people be socially involved, but then to end social isolation, right? So we have some people who are connected to us who are already active. How do we keep them active? As well as how do we get folks who have become inactive in society and in the community, how do we get them from not isolating? Because we know there's huge consequences to anyone, despite age, when they socially isolate. So our vision, our mission is to use what we would consider like four tenets or four purposes or of how we do that, right? So our mission is about how we can continue to improve the quality of life for folks who are 50 and older by looking at wellness, right? So we want to look at wellness overall, right? So not just physical, but mental. So whether that's providing meditation class or, yoga, um, wellness, right? We got a workout center, those type of pieces. But also another really, really big and important one is community engagement. We're working on that. That's a little difficult right now with the community engagement piece. Our way of doing that right now is just making sure we're keeping people informed about how they can get involved, how they can make a donation, how they can, help a neighbor. What's some simple things that we can do to do that. And then social connection is another one where we're going to specifically look at keeping people connected inside and outside the senior center. People don't realize that sometimes we have lots of programs that never even happen in the building. Our 50 singles group, they never meet in our building. They're always out at some restaurant somewhere eating food and mixing and mingling, getting to know people. Bowling. We don't have bowling alley, but we got bowling, you know. So that's another thing. So, and then our last one is lifelong learning, which is something that's very, very popular at the senior center, where it's bringing speakers who are already who have lived this vast life that are members of the senior center and teaching others about what they have mastered or what they know well, from quilting to the secrets of the CIA. It just depends on people's interest, language is a huge thing. I mean, I know that you've had an opportunity to experience some of that language. Spanish is really important, and we have some advanced speakers and we have beginning speakers, but we make sure we offer that for folks. So that lifelong learning one is really big, especially right now, given that we are in this virtual world, right? But you'd be surprised. We've gotten, I think one class we had 80 people on a Zoom because they were interested in, I don't even remember what it was. It was like about Hubbard Park or something, but people are really interested and wanted to hear about this. And so we are really proud to be able to offer that, to continue to offer those tenets or those purposes, getting at social decreasing or ending social isolation for folks 50 and older. And so that's what our mission is. And we're going to keep that mission along. Has been a thing that has sustained us in a way during this time more than anything, because we know we have those four things that we want to focus on, and anything that comes under those things is going to help us to keep moving our mission and vision forward. So
So,
sorry, that's a long answer.
no, that's perfect. That's just what I wanted to know because you're right downtown. Your physical location is right downtown Iowa City. So it's, Iowa City campus and Iowa City kind of merged together, and you're not far from the campus. But it's been amazing what you and your staff have been able to do to take all the programming and put it online.
Yes, it has been a heck of a lift to do that, right? Thankfully we have a tech person that can help us, has amazing patience, but a lot of our staff just talking people through. I'm still learning parts of Zoom, right? But having people understand it and just okay, if you can't call, then you can do this. If you can't do this. And it was really hard at first. And then over time, people start talking to each other and they start passing along tips to one another, which made it easier, which is what I always love about the senior centers. We don't have to be the main givers of the information. People, word of mouth is such a powerful tool with the senior center. And so we just really love that people are like, oh, no. I told my friend how to fix it, how to do it. She's going to be on the next one for sure. I'm sure of it. And just being able to have Zoom accounts to be able to offer those services, and people get to see their friends that they would normally see. They get to meet new people. The other beauty is, just like any place, there's people that have their groups and they have their, and this is a situation where, sorry, we're all in here together. We're going to all be in this class together, and nobody gets to have preference over, who's doing what, who's not doing what. So it's just one of those things where I'm really, really loving and appreciating the virtual piece of this, which is something that we are actually going to incorporate once we do open the doors again, is that we will keep these classes virtual. We'll have in person, but we'll have virtual options. So for folks who can't get out the house, or folks who live too far away, or folks who are concerned about parking, or whatever it is, I don't want too many college students around me, whatever it might be, they will have the option to be able to join virtually. So we're really happy about that. And we are going through a building remodel. So we definitely making sure we're including that in our remodels, that we have that set up so that we can virtually be able to broadcast our classes through Zoom or whatever other medium that we choose to use to get the information out to others.
Tell me a little bit about what you like about your job.
Oh, what I like about my job is it's free flowing. I've worked jobs where I've been so stressed all the time, and trust me, during COVID it's been a little stressful, but I have amazing staff. That is a huge part of what makes my job enjoyable. It's because I have amazing staff with a wealth of information. They have good ideas. We have built really good rapport with one another to be honest about when things are working and when things are not working, and to really be able to build things out. And so I have a great appreciation for that. I appreciate my supervisor, our city manager, because he has just been very supportive. But I love, the thing I miss the most right now about my job is being able to come in the flurry of people. It was almost like have you ever been in a school or something like that? There's people coming and going, and they're getting to their classes, or they're going to work out, or you miss that vibe, I guess.
Sure.
That's coming from other people's energy being in that space. And I miss the music. I think I miss the music most of all, because on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we have this really large band practice. It's 65 people playing instruments. I miss the music. Sometimes I used to complain. This last season, they had somebody who had a whistle, and I was like, do we need the whistle? Is the whistle necessary? But now it's I guess I could take that whistle right now,
Now you miss the whistle.
I can deal. So, you miss those things. You miss the people coming up and down the historic staircase and coming through those doors, and the laughter in the lobby. So those are just, I didn't realize how much of a need that is. And those are things that I love about my job. But I love the resilience that I'm seeing from my staff. I'm loving the resilience that I'm seeing of our members. I'm loving seeing people from other states feeling connected to our senior center and coming to our classes and saying, my area doesn't have this, you know, I want to support. So I'm loving that. This is giving us a lot of time to work on some things that were not fun, you know, like more policies or looking at operation manuals or different things like that. So we have been able to do some of that work while we've been away, which are things we're going to have to get done anyways, but it's given us a little bit more time to work on those things a little faster than we would have normally worked on them. So and for the most part, those are things that I love about being a senior center. Hugs, you know, hugs and people looking at you as though you're a part of their life. It's a family feeling, a community feeling. And, you know, I miss that. Yeah. But I do love that about my job, but I do miss that right now.
Well, the Iowa City Johnson County Senior Center is award-winning senior center. I know that you've been accredited, and it's also an unusual senior center nationwide because you have your own TV studio there, and you produce your own videos, and you have your own YouTube channel, and so that's a wonderful opportunity for the community. And also, there are so many opportunities now with this going online as well. Yeah. So how could people get involved even if they don't live in Iowa City? How could they get involved with the senior center?
Well, I mean, all of our programming is virtual right now. We still have membership, so people are welcome to just join because most of our classes are free. But if they want to have a membership, we're not denying people access at all right now to have a membership and get involved in some of those classes that require that. But there are ways of getting involved is signing up for our weekly email, which they can find at our Iowa City. If they just search the City of Iowa City Senior Center, they'll see a link where they can join our I don't want to say newsletter, but it's an email blast that they're able to kind of keep connected with what's going on, what's coming up next. I mean, we have things in there from job advertisements for people that are specifically looking for older people to city things going on in the city to classes, of course, COVID updates like that. That's the type of things that they'll find in those emails. So they're definitely welcome to do that. If they're interested in volunteering, I mean, they can just reach out to us. We do have a online volunteer application that is on our website as well, on the City of Iowa City website. So they can click on that and we'll get back to them to see what we can do. Our volunteering has shifted in major ways, right? Like some of those things that we needed volunteers for, we're not utilizing right now. But there are other things that we definitely can use volunteers for. So that's a couple ways people can get involved. They can always make a donation to the Senior Center. We will not deny anyone who has energy to give us dollars to continue our work. And so those are just a couple ways that people can get involved. But they can always reach out to me and we can always discuss what their interest is and try to see if we can match it. And if not, I'm really good about saying, you know, maybe the Senior Center is a great place, but maybe X, Y, and Z organization might, because we want to, as a community, we still need that volunteer energy to go somewhere. So we want to be able to like get people along to where they need to be so that, you know, we keep that going. So but people are welcome to reach out.
You are a connector through and through.
I try, definitely try. If I can, I will. If I can't, then I don't know. We'll figure something out.
Well, thank you for spending this time with us, LaTasha, and telling us a little bit about the Senior Center and encouraging people to get involved. Today I'm going to have an interview with Elsie Gauley Vega, and she's going to tell us a little bit about a program she started through the Iowa City Johnson County Senior Center. Good morning, Elsie.
Good morning.
Tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started.
Well, I was born on a farm in north central Iowa, number 8 among 10 siblings that my mom and dad raised. It was a farm that was homesteaded by my Irish grandfather. And so I'm very proud of the fact that I was born in the same farm home that my dad was born in. My maternal grandfather was Cherokee, born after his mother had walked on the Trail of Tears. And he was born after, right after she crossed the Mississippi River after walking the Trail of Tears. So I have a history that goes back to the mid-1800s on both sides of my family.
Thank you for sharing that with us. So you are an Iowan. You were born and raised in Iowa. And now you're in Iowa City.
Right. And I had worked in Iowa City in the 80s. And then I met this woman from South Dakota and moved out there. When she died of cancer, I moved back home to my home state and chose to move to Iowa City because I knew I would need lots of good doctors. And ended up at Ecumenical Towers right next to the senior center. I discovered that they had a television studio. And I had worked with television when I lived near Dubuque back in the 1970s. So I talked with a young man that was hired to be the technician at the Senior Center television studio. And I told him I wanted to interview gays and lesbians. And he thought that was a fine idea. He said most of the programming that they did was recording the musical programs that the orchestral and vocal groups did at the Senior Center. But he wanted to do something that was what you would call current events. And I named my program Neighbors and Friends. Neighbors and Friends because, after all, some gays and lesbians are born into many families, generation after generation. It's just that we just don't keep record of it or talk about it much. But we do have gays and lesbians. For example, nearly every hymnal has America the Beautiful, written by Catherine Lee Bates, who had a lifetime partnership with Catherine Coleman. But we just don't mention the fact that they were a couple of lesbians. It's important that we mention that because little girls need to know that if they feel like they are different than their sisters, like I always felt I was different than my sisters because I did not react to boys the way my sisters did. It's important that we let little girls know that some important women in the world are gays, are lesbians, and that some of the men in the world are gay. One of the important men that I could mention, I did not have a chance to interview him, of course, but the man who broke the code that the Nazis used was a gay man. And if he had not broken that secret code that the Nazis used in World War II, the Allies would have had a much harder time ever winning World War II. But let's go back to my program. So I had the encouragement of that young technician, and I wrote a little script and had a friend off camera read the part of Catherine Lee Bates. And I pretended I had a telephone hookup to interview her from heaven. And we talked about the trip that she took to the Pikes Peak, where she wrote the verses, America the Beautiful. Another person that I interviewed on my show, or I didn't interview her, but I talked about her, was Emma Harvat. Emma Harvat was the first woman mayor of any Iowa town the size of Iowa City. And she was a businesswoman. She and her partner had a woman's clothing store. The partner did most of the selection of clothing, and Emma did most of the business financial records. But like I said, she was elected mayor of Iowa City. But the people that I interviewed, those are two of the important people that I mentioned on my Neighbors and Friends series. I found it exciting that I was interviewing people that were indeed our neighbors and friends, our school teachers, our nurses, and he put the programs on YouTube so that they could be looked up and read by people who didn't live in Iowa City. Many of the people that were interviewed were working people and were unable to watch the series as it appeared on the City Channel in Iowa City. So this young technician thought it would be a good idea to put the programs on YouTube, and then people could look up the program any time of day or night and see what we had done.
That's wonderful. And so you would identify people in the Iowa City community and invite them to come on to your program, and then you would interview them about their life?
Yes. For example, I interviewed one very young couple of young women, and they told me they wanted to get married. And this was just before the Iowa judges made it legal to record a wedding between two lesbian women. And I got my camera person to go with me, and we went over to that, different people that were over there celebrating the fact that now lesbians and gay men could have official marriages, and interview also several other local citizens to talk about and to celebrate the fact that gay men and lesbian women could have the wedding ceremony and wedding celebration the same as their straight brothers and sisters.
Elsie, you're talking to us from a local care facility where you have been living for about a year. And during this year, the pandemic has hit, COVID-19 has struck. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's like to be living in a care facility in the age of COVID?
Before COVID struck, I was able to go shopping. When COVID struck, then we were quarantined, and we are very lucky here at the care center that unlike other care centers, we have not had any of our residents come down with COVID. Our staff has taken very good care of us. I miss getting out just because I kind of like to get out and just see other parts of the city.
Well, Elsie, I want to thank you so much for giving us some time and telling us a little bit about your life and about your program at the Senior Center. And thanks for reminding us that recordings of your program are available on YouTube. And so I look forward to the time when nursing homes can accept visitors again on a regular basis, and when nursing home residents can get out and be part of the larger community without the threat of COVID.
Hi, my name's Bob Beall. I'm originally from northeast Iowa, Waukon, Iowa, way up there, almost Minnesota, and grew up on a farm. We moved around a lot in Almaky County, and eventually I ended up in the Navy, came back out of there, and ended up coming down to Cedar Rapids to work, and a friend of mine convinced me to go to college. So I came to Iowa City in 1965 to go to college, and I wanted to be an engineer type, what do you call it, civil engineer, make roads and things. I realized I wasn't mathematically inclined. I changed my major to art, which is the best thing I ever did, and went through the art college, didn't major in painting or fine arts. Like I was in the printing and design and typesetting and that mechanical drawing and that kind of thing. And after college, I got a job at a printing shop where I did various jobs, but got a real good job running a big offset press, where knowledge of color and mixing ink, I had to mix inks to match colors and keep an eye on the stuff coming out of there, making sure it was staying correct. And eventually from there, when I stopped going there, I got a good job at the physics department at the University of Iowa, and working for Dr. Gurnett in the space program that they were doing at the time. At the time it was Galileo, which went to Jupiter, and Cassini that went to Saturn. I worked on both of those projects. I was a drafter, designer, packager. That was my title. And so it was a job that was using my art as something that was helping science or something like that. And unfortunately, the money for large space program satellites ran out, and I had to leave that job. And I stayed with the university in the printing department, and I was there till 2011 when I finally retired and discovered in Iowa City we have a really good senior center which has all kinds of activities going on, and one of the things that they have there is a theater group that puts on some shows, and we did 4 shows a year back at first. I didn't start into it right away, but we did 4 shows a year in the fall and the winter, early spring, and then midsummer. Now we're only doing, well, before all this happened, we were doing 3 shows a year. But in about 2015, we did a show that had a little skit in it that needed a jester. We had a princess and a king who was her father, and she wanted the moon, and the mathematician couldn't give her the moon, and other people couldn't give her the moon, but the jester could give her the moon. And I ended up being the jester. So when we got started, I said, well, I'm going to have to be in my costume, look a little bit like a jester. So I thought, what would I do that's simple enough, not complicated? I didn't want to go all out and buy a costume. So I ended up thinking that I would make one, a very simple one, and I went to a thrift store and bought some t-shirts, a very good thrift store in Iowa City, I'll give them a plug, Crowded Closet, and got some shirts and figured out what I would do. And I'm going to show you what I ended up doing. My director, Diana Durham, also said that I needed a hat. So first I made a hat, which is my little jester hat, made out of felt. I think that's felt, anyway. And she had these colors that she gave me. So I ended up then having, well, I'm going to make the shirt. And I went to this Crowded Closet place, got these 3 t-shirts, and ended up making this shirt with the diamonds on it, and with the hat. I was the jester, and we got the princess her moon. But anyway, so this is appliqued on. It's sewed on top of the other material. It's not cut in. As you can see, it's sewed on top, and I had a little on the back. So that was my outfit that I made. Then, what am I going to do with the orange and the green shirt that I had cut these out of? I had cut them out of the front. So I said, well, I've got the 2 shirts. I still got the back of the orange shirt and the back of the green shirt. So I cut out the back and put it into the front of the orange shirt. And this is what started them all. And I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. And I started wearing this around and people would comment on it. This one is actually sewed in. It's cut out and sewed in. It's not appliqued like that one is. So that is on top. Then I started making more of them for me to wear. And first I kept them relatively simple. This is the same basic idea, but I've got 2 colors in here, and it's just a big circle, or I didn't cut out the bottom of this one, but it was still very simple. And then I started getting a little more complicated and started making some squares. These are 4-inch squares, and these are all sewed in. It's not on top. It's quilted, or not quilted, but pieced like a quilt. At one point, I call these my rainbow shirts because they're all got the colors of the rainbow in them. And this one, at one point, the Iowa City had, we call it Arts Fest in the springtime. And a friend of mine wanted me to help him teach the kids how to play chess on the Ped Mall. So we set up a bunch of tables on the Ped Mall with chess sets. I think we had 6 tables and chess set on each one and a couple chairs. And we taught the kids how to play. Of course, sometimes they knew how, and we would show them the basics of them if they needed it. And some of them were really good at it already, way better than me. And so for that day, I made one with checkerboard on it. It's not a complete board. It's only 4 across, a real chessboard is 8 across, 8 each way, but it was something that I wore those when I was doing those. We did it for several years. And then I started getting more and more complicated. And this one I made the yin-yang symbol, which is kind of fun to do. And I was taking a Qigong class at the time, and I would wear this one for that. And then things got a little more complicated, and I started making smaller and smaller squares. So that one was that. Again, it's all sewed in. They're not appliqued on. This was just odds and ends of squares. So it was a little bit more complicated, but still the same idea. And of course this one with the triangles on it. And then I started getting a little more elaborate each time. I don't know if that shade is. And then in 2018, I had a friend of mine as a painter, and he would have shows every now and then, but one day we approached, or I forget who actually, I think he approached me or I approached him. I said, would you like to do a combined show at the Senior Center? They do 4 shows a year, usually every quarter, and you have to book them far in advance. So in the summer of 2017, I asked Michelle Buhlman at the center, she's the program director, if I could reserve space for a show and show my shirts and my friend show his paintings. And we were able to get it October or September through November of 2018, a whole year later. So you have to book them in advance. And for the show, I had 46 of my shirts on sale. There's small, mediums, and large. Most of these are large because that's what I wear. And ended up selling 20 of them at the show. Several the first night, the opening night. We had a really nice opening night. A friend of mine from the center, Dorothy Scandoro, asked if she could play the piano, and was practically begging us, and we said, yes, please do. And so when she was playing that night, it really made a nice opening night. And I see people around town with them on every now and then, so I know that they're out there somewhere. And then I wasn't making them for a while. Oh, I got to show you them. Then they got really, really more complicated. And I thought I would make one, and I call this one A River Runs Through It. And I call it my Iowa fields with the river running through it. And so this is a river running through the fields of Iowa. Just this summer, a friend of mine wanted some for her grandchildren, who are 8 and 10 years old. And so she went, I didn't have any small shirts for the kids, and she went to a thrift store, I don't know which one, and got shirts. They both had logos on it, and I think this one had a Hawkeye on it. But for the kids, I made these two here. This is for the 8-year-old girl, and this is for the 10-year-old boy. So that's pretty much what I was doing with my shirts and with my art career, and how everything got started, and how one thing led to another. You don't have to be formally educated in sort of some of this stuff. And the reason I knew how to sew was I grew up kind of isolated on the farm. My sister and my mom made clothes. Besides doing chores in the wintertime, there's not a lot to do. So I learned how to sew. This is my pieces, and that I have cut out, my 4-inch pieces, and some of the ones that are ready as diagonals already.
On art form.
And we're recycling basically t-shirts. I get them I don't buy them new, I buy them, all of the ones that I've had I buy at the thrift shops, mostly Crowded Closet. Every time I use one that I cut out the front of, say this had a logo here, if this had a logo up here, and I'm going to put all this in, I've got the part that's below it to make more squares out of it. So every color that I use, I have more squares. It all gets reused, throw very little of it away. Use your creativity and do stuff that you like, and you can help others, and never stop learning.